What if I told you that the worst parts of your life, the stuff you wish never happened, were actually your greatest advantages? Well, today we're diving into a powerful philosophy from a few young entrepreneurs who believe exactly that. They argue that hardship isn't a problem to be avoided, it's the very thing that unlocks your highest performance. Let's break down how.
Yeah, I know. This is a pretty jarring idea to start with. The core belief we're going to unpack is that a tough life isn't a disadvantage at all. It's well, a fucked up kind of privilege. It sounds completely backward, I get it, but stick with me, because understanding this is the key to everything else we're going to talk about.
All right, so let's get right into it. Our first big principle is all about reframing hardship. It's about learning to see it not as a setback, but as the raw material you need to build success.
So the main idea here, the core thesis, is that your future strengths are literally being forged in your current struggles. I mean, think about it for a second. Every skill you have, every piece of resilience you've got, it probably came from overcoming something tough, right? This perspective completely flips the script. It turns today's struggles into the superpowers you get to use tomorrow. So what even is hardship in this context? Well, you can think of it like a test. It's a chance to prove to yourself what you're really made of. Take Dario's story, for example. His dad was super wealthy, but when Dario was 20, his entire life got turned upside down. Everything was gone. No family support, nothing. He had to rely completely on himself. And he says that brutal sink or swim moment, that hardship, is exactly what forged him into the successful man he is today. Now, this idea applies to all kinds of obstacles, but let's zoom in on one that every single one of us faces: fear. The real question isn't whether or not you feel fear, it's whether you have a system to push right through it. To really get this, we've got to look at Jack's childhood. He calls himself an extroverted introvert now, but as a kid, he was so shy that the thought of meeting new people would literally make him physically sick, like throw up sick. It was a crippling, paralyzing fear. So what his dad did in response was honestly kind of brilliant. He created a simple, repeatable training program. Step 1, identify the exact fear, in this case, meeting new people. Step 2, force exposure. He'd take Jack to business events. Step 3, give him a clear, achievable mission. Just go talk to 3 or 4 strangers. And then the final crucial step, Jack had to report back on what he learned. This created this simple but powerful feedback loop that literally rewired his brain's response to that fear. And the result for Jack? It was completely transformative. He learned that this amazing high of connection and accomplishment was waiting for him just on the other side of all that anxiety and sickness. It proved this incredibly powerful lesson. Often, the best things in life are guarded by the very things that scare us the most. But what happens when things just go completely off the rails? I mean, really bad. Well, this brings us to a super powerful concept: the rock bottom switch. You see, despite all that earlier training, when Jack was 21, his life took a really dark turn. He was living in what was basically a drug house, totally crippled by anxiety, and his health was just gone. He said he'd look in the mirror and see a person who was a million miles away from the man he ever wanted to be. And this is the moment of the switch. When you're at rock bottom, you're facing 2 kinds of pain. You've got the pain of staying where you are. For Jack, that was the constant anxiety, the fake highs, the misery. And then you've got the terrifying pain of changing, of facing reality and starting over from absolute zero. The switch only flips when the pain of staying the same finally becomes greater than the pain of changing. That moment right there is the turning point. But you might be wondering, why do some people flip that switch while others stay stuck? Well, Jack believes it's because his good upbringing gave him a clear vision of a better version of himself. So even when he hit rock bottom, he still had that picture in his head of the man he was supposed to be. And that vision gave him something real to fight for, which made going back to his old life not even an option. Okay, so we've covered the mindset, which is absolutely crucial. But how does this stuff actually apply to the real world of business? Let's walk through a practical journey to a 7-figure income. You know, Dario's entrepreneurial path didn't start with some grand, world-changing vision. Not at all. It actually started when he was just working a normal job as a service advisor at Volkswagen. He literally just overheard some salesmen talking about the insane profit margins on camper vans, and a light bulb just went off. And his journey from there followed this super clear, logical progression. It all started at 22, when he took the leap, quit his job, and got a loan. That first year was pure grind. He taught himself every single hands-on skill:
from fitting windows to installing roofs, so he knew the business inside and out. Then, in years 2 and 3, he started to scale up, hiring a team and bringing in a mentor to really professionalize the whole operation. And by year 4, the systems were so dialed in that he could automate the entire business and run it from the other side of the world in Thailand.
So Dario's journey really leaves us with a clear blueprint. First, you have to learn the core skills yourself before you can even think about leading other people. Then, you hire people who are smarter and better than you to actually elevate the business. A mentor is absolutely key, not as an expense, but as an investment to help you skip over all the costly mistakes. And maybe the most important lesson of all, focus on one business and one business only until it's a well-oiled machine that can run without you. But look, financial success, that's only one piece of the puzzle. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea of all. How do you build a complete life, not just a successful company? This framework calls it building the complete man. There's a huge danger for ambitious people today, and that's becoming one-dimensional. You see it all the time, right? The guy who only focuses on making money, or the guy who spends all his time in the gym. That kind of singular focus almost always leads to an unfulfilled, totally unbalanced life. So, what's the alternative? Well, the framework we're looking at here revolves around one simple number: 7. The proposed solution is to focus on filling 7 different buckets. Now, some are obvious, like physique and money, but this framework also includes relationships with your family and friends, and then separately, romantic relationships with women. It also includes combat, which really means your ability to handle conflict and stand up for yourself, along with your overall lifestyle and, of course, your social skills. And here is the most crucial part. These buckets aren't separate things you check off a list. They all feed into each other. For example, being in great shape gives you way more energy and focus for your business. Having strong relationships gives you a support network that money could never buy. The whole idea is that working on all of them at the same time creates this powerful synergy, and it builds you into a person that other people naturally respect. Which really just leaves us with one final big question to think about. After hearing all these philosophies on turning hardship into strength, on facing fear, on building a complete life, what is your personal definition of greatness?